Happy New Year! Guys, welcome to another episode of Awaken the Wonder. I am your host today, Joshua Smith. I'm with Kingdom Encounters International, and I've got Caleb on the hot seat again. If you guys didn't hear last episode, you need to go back, hear about his childhood and what God did with him, because it'll help you understand what's happening now. Guys, God is doing amazing things, and I cannot wait to let you know what he's doing with our ministry specifically. But before I do that, guys, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to the channel, and leave a rating for us so that we can just get more people to hear what God's doing and encourage them. All right, now I'm gonna get to it. Caleb, how are you doing today, man?
Dude, I'm excited. It's 2021. We did it.
We made it. We made it through 2020. We got there.
I kept seeing those posts at like 2020, like for like the Halloween posts back, they were putting like 2020 up in front of their house or something as like the scary year. Or then I saw like one that was like 367 days, 368 days, like it won't end. Like, and like 2020 was good. To me, but it wasn't to a lot of people. Yeah. And we definitely know there's a lot going on in the world.
Been a lot of ups and downs.
Yeah.
And some would argue a lot more downs. But that actually wasn't what we saw with ourselves, our personal lives, and our ministry.
Look at this room that we're in right now.
I know.
This was 2020, you know.
This podcast, 2020. Yeah. We also have the ability to reach the gospel around the world.
This book right here, man.
2020.
Hunger,
right there.
Get your copy
right
today.
there. There you go.
That was 2020.
Yeah.
So.
And if you guys haven't read that book, you need to get it. It is so encouraging. It's going to drive you to get to know the Lord better. But anyway, so I want to talk to you, man. We talked a little bit about your childhood, how God really shaped your life and met you at a young age and just drove you to just want to share the gospel and want to share the good news of the God that you know and you love. And so that has propelled you today, because for those that don't know your ministry but know this podcast, you are an evangelist. Yeah. You go all over the world. You founded Kingdom Encounters International. I'm repping one of the t-shirts. If you guys want to go pick one up and help support us, that would be amazing. We've got a couple really amazing ones at kingdomencounters.us/store. Check it out. But you felt the call to just, I remember you calling me up actually saying, Josh, I'm going to go around the world and preach the gospel. And I'm like, how are you going to do that? You're like, I don't know, but I'm going to do it. And I've known you for a long time. And when you say you're going to do it and you have no clue, I'm like, he's going to do it.
Well, a lot of people are dreamers and a lot of people are doers.
Yeah.
But I kind of had that like hybrid thing, because like I would dream crazy dreams, but then I'm like, I'm going to go do it right now. But like, so there's a part of me now with just life and experience where I'm like, let me get some of the tools in place on how we're going to do it versus just running into something.
Oh, and the Lord really prepped you in that previous season before you launched out to get the tools, the necessary tools to be a better doer and more organized for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
But anyway, so the Lord actually called you to this at a very young age. Can you tell us about that? You were 14, right?
Yeah. So I was 14 years old, and I just remember I was in prayer one day. I was 8th grade going into 9th grade before starting freshman year, and the Lord just spoke to me randomly and said, "You're going to be part of a coming billion soul harvest." And I like, it was such a random thought.
How a billion?
A billion. Yes, there's 7.5 billion people on the planet, a billion. And wow. I remember hearing it, and I was 14, and I was like I'm like kind of doing puberty right now, and like I wasn't even driving a car yet. I didn't even have a permit, and I'm like, a billion souls. So I'm like, did I hear that right? And I just felt like this presence of God just all on me. This heat came on me. I'm like, he just spoke to me, like a billion souls. So that was really the last I thought about it for about 8 years. So 8 years go by, and I was working in between my 2 youth pastor positions. I was working at this home for disabled adults.
Were you still in college at that point? Or
I was in college in between 2 youth pastor positions right before I got married.
And you were working, and I remember you were working with adults that needed help and care.
Yep. I was in a behavior home, and there was just people dealing with lots of issues, and so there was 24/7 care at the home. And so we had got all the guys down for bed that night. And then you had, for the last hour of your shift, it was pretty much paperwork.
Yeah.
So I opened up my computer because I knew there was a live stream going on with banning Liebscher and Jesus culture.
Yeah.
And so I opened it up and there was some conference going on. So I just turned it on in the background while I was doing all my paperwork. And banning Liebscher's on the thing, and he says, there's somebody listening to this broadcast, maybe a couple. You've been called to a coming billion soul harvest. And I heard it, and I was like, I wanted to rewind it, but it was live, and at that time we didn't have capabilities yet.
Yeah, sure.
That shows how old we are now, right?
I know.
But like, I was like, that's the first time I literally heard the phrase out loud in my entire life.
That had to freak you out.
Oh, it did. I was like, a billion souls. And it wasn't just a few months later, I went to another youth pastor position, and we're starting with 20 kids, and maybe we get it up to 60, 70 at some point. And we're plowing, and the Lord's revival in the youth group and all that. And I'm like, how could a billion people possibly? And it wasn't registering yet. I had this opportunity to go work at Christ for All Nations. And I love their ministry. As far as I hear at the time of this recording, they're about to hit 80 million people that have come to Christ. So I'm in a conference. At one of the conferences. I was Daniel's assistant. He wasn't there yet at the event. So I was there. I was in the front row of the morning session with Michael Koulianos and Jesus Image. And Lou Engle is preaching. Okay. Now he's done The Send. He just did The Send and The Call and Prayer on the Mall. Big intercessor guy.
Huge into fasting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He fasts probably as much as anyone we've heard of. And he's in the event and he's preaching. It's the 9 a.m. session and I'm there in the front and he says, there's somebody in this room. You've been called to a coming billion soul harvest. Now this is the first time I've heard it, not just out loud, but in person from somebody. And it's just, so that's a second confirmation of what the Lord spoke to you when you were 14 years old. Here I am 15 years later. I was 29 years old.
Wow.
And I immediately, right after the session, now when you were serving as an assistant in the green rooms, you were around a lot of these famous people, but like I played the background. I stayed to the back. I never approached anybody. If they came to me and they shook my hand, praise God, I'll talk to them, whatever. But like I just played the background.
Well, sure, that was your role as an assistant at that point.
And but this is the one time in 3.5 years I like threw all the rules out the window. I went straight into the green room. I walked straight up to Lou Engle at the table and I said, Brother Lou, I have to talk to you. He's like, yes, brother. And I said,
now, was he doing his famous rock?
Oh, he was rocking. Well, not yet. It wasn't until I said what I said. I said, Brother Lou, I have to ask you. I said, what is the billion soul harvest? So we're going through this whole thing. And I said, when I was 14, the Lord told me this. And when I was 22, this. And then today you said this. And the billion soul harvest and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, come on, guys, you have to come here. And he gets all the guys. There's 15 guys around the table. Come here, hear this guy.
I like your Louis impression. That's pretty good.
Yeah. And he's like, guys, when he was 14, when he was 22, today the Lord spoke to him, and he's doing all this stuff, and I'm like, but Brother Lou, I have a question. And he's like, yeah, what is it? And I said, what is the billion soul harvest? And he goes, oh, it was a prophecy by the late prophet Bob Jones. And I said, Bob who? And so I go look up on YouTube, and sure enough, Bob Jones back in the 70s had this vision of the billion soul harvest, of all these people coming to a billion youth coming to Christ. And he said there was going to be 3 things that would happen before that would begin.
And this was in the 70s.
The 70s.
Okay.
Yeah,
wow.
I think it was 78 and 83. 78 is when he had the vision. 83, he expanded on it. And he said it. And the 3 things were that there would be same-sex marriage would become legalized in America.
Okay.
The second thing is he said there would be the morning after pill would be created.
Yeah.
And then
check.
Yep. And then the third thing was that workers in China would be able to listen to worship music on their watches. Well, the Apple Watch had just come out shortly before that, being made and produced out of China.
Yeah.
And it was like, I looked and I'm like, that's like right now. Like it just happened. I'm like, It's starting. And so I was so excited, and I was like, well, what do I do with this? And it wasn't just but a few months later, the Lord launched us out to start doing these crusades.
That's amazing. Okay, so crazy prophecies, all of this is happening to you. Like, that's the call on your life. And you can't really doubt that. The Lord really like nailed that in and confirmed that so many ways to you. That's incredible. So far, I've been able to be part of your ministry, and we've seen over 258,000 people.
It baffles me.
I know. Two boys from Nebraska that just said yes to Jesus, and watching him work, and you're just going, how humbling that is. But you know that there's so much more that God has for us. The work is not done yet. And so you were praying, and you came up to me and you told me about this, and I'm going to let you tell the audience.
June.
You're praying in June, going, okay, Lord, what do you have for me now? Because you want to make sure that you don't go anywhere without hearing from the Lord first. And you said, Lord, what's the vision for 2021?
Yeah, because I said, well, the reason I was praying so far out, because I normally am just more focused in the moment, was because COVID had kind of wrecked the schedule,
Yeah.
and all the international stuff was shut down, and we're like, well, what's going to happen? So I said, Lord, I said, what do you want me to do here for the ministry? Like, where are things headed? And he said, would you believe me for 1 million souls in 2021? And I said, 1 million souls in 2021? I said, of course, absolutely. Now, I'm aware that it typically costs in our crusades around $1 a person to come to Christ. And so even when I say things like 1 billion souls, I'm like, I know subconsciously that it's going to cost more than $1 billion, because even with just crusades, then there's like all of the other parts of running a ministry.
We have to pay for other things that are happening.
You have to
here
get staff and people and stuff, and I get it.
Team, and
you write a book, you do. I mean, things happen, and so I'm like, okay, but 1 million, I'm like, that's like 3 times more than we've ever raised in a year, and I'm going, how is that going to happen? But I was like, okay. I'm like, well, I held on to it for a couple of weeks, and I just kind of sat on it, and then I was like, so Josh, I think the Lord's telling us to do 1 million next year. You're like, 1 million what? I said 1 million souls, and you're like, whoa.
Yeah. So my first instinct was like, awesome. How are we going to pay for that? And because I know you're crazy, and you trust the Lord with everything, and you grow my faith. And I remember last year, man, when we were reaching out for the last stretch, the last 4 months, it was so scary because of the amount of money we were short, and we didn't have. We took a team with us, and we were 20 grand short. We couldn't pay for the
25 grand.
25 grand short. Yeah, we couldn't even pay for the hotel that the people that paid to go on this trip. We couldn't even pay for their hotels. And I'm like, all right, we're here. And of course, the Lord showed up and brought in the 25,000, and then the next month we had to raise 50, and then the next month we had to raise 30, and I'm going. And the month prior to that, we had to raise 75. And I'm like, we don't know people that can do that. And so I'm going, Lord, I believe you for 1 million, but you have to do something crazy. And so of course, in my flesh, did not want to hear that at the moment, man.
Yeah.
I was not excited about that, but then something happened, man. And you're a numbers guy, and so you just said, hey, what if we just asked 1,000 people to give $1,000? Yeah. Because we don't know the millionaires. Yeah. And so we said, okay. And then the Lord started showing up and confirming that with us, with the first church that opened up for us in 2020 to go speak to, and it just blessed us tremendously. Yeah. But still, I'm looking at that going, on paper, there's no way we can do this. There's no way we can do this on paper.
That's how we know it's a God thing.
That's right.
If we could do it, it wouldn't be enough faith,
Amen.
Because it'd be our own strength, our own works.
Amen.
But that's not what God asks us to do, because we partner with Him, which means we need Him.
Which is nuts, because right now, when this airs, we'll officially have hired full-time the guy standing right over here, Danilo, and so we will have 3 people on our staff, and it's a 3-person team, and we've got some other people that help us out part-time that are just amazing. But what other ministries are reaching 1 million people today?
There's very few on the planet. I know Christ for All Nations was one of them.
And that's really, kind of what they shoot for, is 1 million themselves, right?
Yeah. That's been at the time I was there. That's what they were doing. I know now Daniel Kalenda and his leadership's incredible. They're doing boot camps and raising all these other evangelists. So I imagine they'll far exceed that as the years go on. But yeah, as far as just individual ministries, there's not many that are accomplishing that, and so it is pretty seemingly far-fetched for a ministry that's 3.5 years old to be dreaming about 1 million souls.
3.5 years old with 3 full-time staff, and CFAN, for example. Do you roughly how many?
At the time I was there, I mean, there were probably 150 ish.
And it takes that many. It's a monster that to do what they do, and they need a lot of people to carry that. And so that's what I think. I'm a logistics guy, and so I'm going, wait a second, Lord, you're asking us right now to go do that? Because that's just nuts.
And then COVID. I mean, it's like this whole other wrinkle.
Yeah, we're like 21 services got canceled on us, which is
23 out of 24 weeks in a row.
Yeah, we were shut down. Churches were shut down. And I'm like, that's kind of our fundraising ticket is going in and sharing the vision of what the Lord's got. I'm like, well, how are we going to do that? And it's been really interesting to see the seeds that the Lord has been allowing us to plant, and I'm really getting excited about it.
It's true, and in order to see 1 million people, there has to be a lot of creative ways to do it. I'd like to talk just briefly about the plan for the year, and with the vision 1 million, you might be saying, well, how do you plan to do that? You know. And so for us to see 1 million people come to Christ, it really is an act of faith. But we have planned on paper, and there's, when I say 1 million, I always undercut the low projections of what could happen.
Yeah.
So I'm saying 1 million, but I actually believe it could be 1.2, 1.3 million people, if not more. And here's how we're going to do it. We have 9 planned crusades next year that are going to be in countries across the nations, with a crusade in a country in South Asia that we're planning to go to 3 times next year. And in each of those crusades, the low estimate is 250,000 people to be a part of these campaigns. In addition to that, it could be obviously higher than that as well. You might say, well, could it be lower? And the truth is, probably not. And you may say, well, why not? Probably not. And the truth is because we have an incredible team that's over in these countries that's ready to roll and ready to receive the harvest. We are low projecting 1 million people face to face. In addition to that, we have 10 virtual crusades lined up that are all planning to reach anywhere approximately 10,000 people in each one, where we're sending the buses out to villages, 10 of them, that have never had a Christian message go to them ever. This is virtual crusades. The low end projection for that is 100,000 people that will hear the gospel, the low end. And there's potential where it could be even more. In addition to that, this podcast and the TV show that accompanies this podcast, the TV show is now going out on 2 stations and potentially more that are going right into the heart of the Middle East and to 182 countries around the world. I remember, Josh, when we did our very first Facebook Live video from my kitchen table before this room even existed, and 573 people called into the station to give their lives to Christ at a kitchen table.
Which is crazy. And I love hearing that, because I go, how many people didn't call in that just said, man, I need you, Jesus? And so it's like, we're never going to meet those people this side of eternity, but we will get to see them when they're part of the family together with Jesus, and we're going to get to meet so many people. And I love that every time I sow into a ministry, because I sow into, and I know you guys, you and Harmony sow into several ministries that go out to win the lost, that's something I'm planning into. That's something I'm investing into. And people that I've never met are going to come up and say, thank you for donating. Thank you for giving, so that I could hear about Jesus. And that changed my entire life. That changed my family's life. And however long we're still on this earth, and however long before Jesus comes back, generations. It changes. And I love this, man. I love hearing that just from our kitchen table, we could share the gospel and watch people call in. 573 people call in and said, I just accepted Jesus. What do I do now?
Yeah, no, it's true. And even in addition to that, Josh, like, we have been given an opportunity by some of the networks to go live on their networks whenever we want to. And in addition to that, I'll be hosting a program that with other evangelists where I'll rotate speakers in to do Christian messages all over to the nations just through the media.
Well, and they already,
this is incredible.
They already asked you. They said, hey, when you do a crusade and you preach the gospel to the hundreds of thousands of people, can we record it and broadcast it all over the world?
Yeah.
And then
they're going to re-air the
and then
crusades.
They're going to re-air it, and they're going to say, hey, we want to re-air and celebrate what Jesus did so that you can preach the gospel again, over and over, just repeating that. And I love the idea of the multiplication process that this happens.
Well, and the thing is, if we poured our entire lives even into just the media, there is a chance that next year, I have no way of gauging, but there's a chance hundreds of thousands, if not millions, could hear the gospel through media alone.
Oh, I know.
But when I'm talking about a vision a million, I'm saying a million face to face in addition to the added exponential
millions of people that could hear it in live broadcasts, repeats, re-airing the broadcast. But yeah, you're talking, you and I and Danilo are going to be face to face with 1 million people next year, all over the world.
Yeah, and this is really, I believe, the heart of God right now, because he who wins souls is wise. That's what the scripture says. And anybody who is investing their lives into souls, anybody who's investing into souls and sowing seed into souls, anybody who's praying for souls, my friends are going to reap souls in Jesus' name.
Come on.
And I had this vision the other day where I saw, we don't think of ourselves this way, but I'm part of the harvest. You know, I saw this, Jesus was fishing and he went like this and he started reeling in a catch like this. And I was on the hook.
That's a funny thing to think about.
I kept kind of wobbling in, and I was like, "What is going on?" And it was just this reminder that he caught me. I'm part of the harvest, and now my kids are part of the harvest because they're going to grow up in a Christian home, just like my parents. When my dad broke the generations, as you heard about in the last episode, and I became part of the harvest because he became part of the harvest. And to think of the generations, Josh. Through all of the media, through all of the face-to-face, through all the crusades, through all the campaigns, and all of the hard-fought, fundraising is hard,
Fundraising
all
is
of
so
all
hard.
of the hard-fought tears and prayers of the unknown of how we're going to put food on the table tomorrow. I sit there and I looked at generation after generation after generation is going to be affected because of the lives that are touched in these nations in the 1040 window. Where they're lost and have never even heard that in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. I mean, they're that lost.
Yeah.
And we get to bring Jesus to them.
I know. Introducing
That's
Jesus,
vision a million.
Introducing Jesus to people is the most fun thing I've ever gotten to do in my life.
Come on, man. That's vision a million to
That's
me,
right.
So.
That's right. So guys, 2021, this year is going to be amazing. God's going to do amazing things. He's going to allow us and others to go in and preach the gospel to millions of people, whether it's through media or in person. We're going to be reaching millions of people this year. And I'm so excited. So for you guys, if you guys want to invest into that, like we're I believe a great ministry to invest into. There's other great ministries to invest into. But guys, invest into things that moth and rust can't destroy, that thieves cannot steal. Invest into the heavens. Invest into souls. That's the only thing you get to take with you when you get to heaven, is souls. So I encourage you, if you want to invest into us, we've got a link on the screen that you can check out. It's kingdomencounters.us/give, and you can sow into that. But I'm just excited. Caleb, do you have any final words before we close up here?
Yeah, I just want to invite, again, everybody who's listening to this podcast or to this YouTube video right now to just remember that it's all about Jesus and it's all about his plans and his purposes. And even though around us things have seeming to have been shaken in every single area, God is not surprised by any of this. He has a plan in the middle of this, and he has a plan to reach and bring in people because he is not willing that any would perish. So my friends, we have to be about his heart, His purposes, His plans right now. And you know what's on His heart? Souls. That's what's on His heart. And so I invite you to not only just invest, but to join me in investing, to join Joshua in investing into the harvest and investing straight into Vision $1 million. This is just the avenue that God has given us to reach $1 million. I encourage you to do it. Again, kingdomencounters.us/give, or you can go to the P.O. box. It'll be in the show notes. You'll see the address there. So if you want to give through mail, you can do that as well. But we just invite you again to give and to invest into this Vision $1 million.
Thank you for listening to Awaken the Wonder. If you enjoyed today's show and want more ministry like this, please visit kingdomencounters.us, where you can find weekly blogs and my latest book, Hunger. Be sure to subscribe and follow me on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram at the tag Evangelist Caleb Wampler. If the Lord leads you to partner with us in the nations in prayer and giving, visit kingdomencounters.us. I'll see you next time.